Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I'm so glad you could be here with me today. It's an exciting time. I've got a lot of great things going on with the Fokker D.VIII, and I'm excited to share with you a little part of it. And first thing we got to do, we got to clean up. Yeah, it's kind of a big mess in here. All right, so apologize for that interlude. The shop was a little out of sorts. So why did I have to clean this shop? Well, let me tell you. Because today I'm going to show you how to turn one of these into one of these. Yeah, so this is a fully completed outer wing panel. Well, fully completed meaning fully constructed. There's still some finishing work that needs to be done, like a leading edge that will come after it's joined with. Yeah, look at that. Center section is also done. So got to get all of this stuff worked out, but first I want to show you guys how we get there. So to get there, we're going to need some of these, some of these, some of this, and a whole lot of what's under here. In reality, it's just a couple of sheets of foam. So essentially I'm using one sheet of foam board for the top, one sheet for the bottom. And how do we get there? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our template, which is under here, which I've cut out. Now, this is the exact former that butts up against the center section. And we also have these ply plates here that will have to be incorporated as well. As you can see on this. So these are the hard points that I was talking about in the previous video, where we will have to create these straps for the struts that will lay in here. And once we glue this wing panel onto the spars, I can just put a little piece of foam in here to cover that up, and then we'll have a nice hard point underneath here. You'll see. And then, of course, we have a hole here for mounting our servo. I've left the servo out for now so that it can remain flat for manipulating on the build board. There's a little wire poking in there. That's my servo wire, and I pre-ran that all the way to here, where I have incorporated a servo connection into the wing flush mount so that all we have to do is plug in, make sure that my ground is pointing to the aft portion of the airplane, and all will be easy at the field for assembly. Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay. So that is why the shop has been a mess, because I've been focusing on one wing to try to work out bugs, work out templates, work out sizing, because a lot of that stuff just takes time that on camera is really not interesting. So how I do that is mostly just based off of the plans. So really what we're talking about is how do I size this back plate so that I have something to screw the servo into? Well, I'm going 5 millimeters into the green foam that you can't really see well. There we go. See? So it glues directly onto the green foam so that it's nice and sturdy, and that we have a nice flush mount that's not going to warp or distort too much when a load is applied to the aileron itself. The aileron's obviously being built off camera as well. And then obviously working out these sizing things, I went a little bit off plan just because it was pretty unnecessary, a little overbuilt if I were to use the normal size for how light this model is going to be. Then on top of that, I did my wingtips, and you know, the carving these is never a graceful process. It's kind of crude. It's very messy. If you think balsa is messy, you should try this. You will have foam dust in your nose. So if that irritates you, make sure you wear some sort of mask or respirator. You'll see me in time lapses blowing off my glasses because the static from the phone, it just sticks to everything. Aside from that, usual masking tape. We are still using Gorilla Glue, and again, I touched on it in the last video, never really fully talked about it. You'll see it more in this video. So the reason that we want the larger ribs, the final reason that we want the larger ribs, is because there's more gluing surface area. This being a fully skinned wing, we want to prevent the wing from twisting too much under load. Otherwise, we'll have a wing warping effect, which will be counter to what we want. So by having more surface area for the glue to bite onto, we can spread out some of those loads a little bit further. If you use thinner foam, you can still get there, but it's not that much additional weight or even glue to go ahead and use the thicker foam, and you have a much more rigid structure. All right, so that out of the way, I've clearly been talking too much, so I'm gonna set you guys up. I'm gonna get cutting, and we'll get the bottom skinned out, and from there we'll start installing the hard points and get this wing wrapped up. Alrighty, so we have a frame gluing to a skin, and the reason that you're seeing me go through and tap each one of those things is because sometimes things will not be entirely even or settled because we have some tension on this skin. So being able to see where there is like a need to push up because the structure is really light. So being able to tap on it and see where it goes in, you can see where weight needs to be applied. So for example here, with the weight off, you can see that the skin moves ever so slightly right here. Ever so slightly. So this is just play sand that you pick up at the hardware store, double bagged in Ziploc so that it doesn't make a mess if you do get a small puncture on the inside from the abrasive sand. I've been using these same bags for several years now, so this is a really good idea. Just some weight to hold things down. And now we wait. It's a waiting game. So on the other wing, I was working on other stuff while the glue was drying. So because I have other things already cut out, I'll explain them. So I have the wood pieces here for the hard mounts, and these are my servos. The servos are attached to a basic piece of balsa, and I have some basswood that is adhered to it using medium CA. I did pre-drill these holes for mounting the servos and then drop some thin CA to harden up the holes before you final mount the screws. And then because I needed some extra thickness as well as some rigidity from the softer balsa, I just put some 1/64 inch ply, a sheet on top of that. Now this hole I cut with my Dremel and just put it in place where I needed it. And these servos are standard size servos, should be just fine. Probably way overkill for what we're doing here, but yeah, that's that. So the extension, this is a custom made extension, And the reason that it's custom is because, number one, I save a lot of money and headache because this is a custom sized length. But also, I wanted the male end. This is the male end because inside here there are things that stick out. That's male. That's female. Okay. If you don't know the difference, talk to your parents. All right. So the reason I want the male end on both ends is because inside the wing, this will attach to the servo, and the other end will go into the wing. Now, the reason that I wanted it in the wing like this is because I have a better gluing surface. So this sleeve that goes over top of this piece of plastic, I can scuff this with some sandpaper and glue it directly into the foam and cover it up with a piece of tape, and none of the Gorilla Glue is going to ooze out into it, and it'll be fine. That out of the way, we have, where's my plate? There it is. So here's the ply plate. We talked a little bit about this one already. So when cutting this, I use my razor saw. Everybody should have a razor saw. So what you do is you score lightly along the line that you've drawn, and then you go over it really, really fast until you break through, and then you just ever so carefully work your way to the edge on both sides until it's done. Wingtips. All right, wingtips are 2-inch thick foam. That stuff. 2-inch thick foam, drawn and hot wired a straight edge, and then did a hot wire rough cut around the curved part. It's like a scroll saw kind of thing. I just threw it in the corner. Looks like that. So after the rough cut, I use this file, which is really, really rough, just to rough out the shape, make quick work of it, then refine it with this, and then 150 grit paper to smooth things out. And that is it for now. I'll get more into shaping the tip once we get it glued onto the wing. But for now, I think I'm going to go take a little break and see what my wife's up to and help her out. As you can see, the foam is already forming here, and that's exactly what we want. So we'll come back in a little while and we'll start installing some of the hardware. All right, welcome back to Sweaty Joshua. I finished my workout a little bit ago and was just doing some minor things off camera just because they kind of don't really matter. They're kind of boring. You don't really learn much. So really what I've done is I took my straight edge and I taped it to the wing and straightened off the leading edge. I did that for both wings because I hadn't done it yet on the first one. So really everything that you've seen me do is really straightforward. Again, we're just taking glue and applying the skin to the wing and trying to do it as carefully as possible. So I do have my servo wire installed through here and should be able to drop in. I think, yeah, that's the right wing. So that should drop in like so. Got to drill some holes for that. So yeah, the next thing that I have to do is shape the tip. So I want to explain a little bit about how to do that before I jump into the time lapse, so that you know what you're looking at, because it's going to happen fast. And what I really want to explain is that this is pure and simply sculpting. Okay, it's not something that you need to be afraid of, because seriously, if you mess this up, you can just cut it off and glue on a new one. All right, but really, it just takes time. So the way that these World War I models work is generally on the front view. You can see here. This is the side, okay? So the way that they have this tip is not scaled. The scale tip goes straight out and then it comes up at an angle. So this makes sense, right? Because the airfoil is slightly undercambered. So if you follow this block here and you just carve it to where it follows the contour of the top of the wing, and then flip it over, and then you sort of sculpt it flat to the bottom of the wing, and then start to do a flat angle along here, what you end up with is something that looks like this. Okay, so you have a nice curved surface and a nice flat surface, and then on the side you have an undercambered tip, which helps prevent tip stalling. Right? So believe it or not, these guys actually kind of knew what they were doing aerodynamically. So that's sort of what we're going for, is just this kind of rough shape where straight on is straight across, and then there's an angle up on the tip, and it creates this undercambered side profile. All right, so that's what you're going to see me do. I'm going to be using the two different files here. This one for rough shaping, and this one for more finite shaping, and then I'll be using the sanding bar, wherever that is. Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay, so that's really all that there is to it. Go slow, but all I have to say is don't be afraid to mess up. You can fix things, or you can redo things. You can use spackling to fix things like where you may slip. You can use glue to glue in new pieces of foam where maybe you took off too much. Or you can, like I said, you can just cut it off and start over again. The benefit here is that you're not losing much time, okay? When you carve balsa, yeah, it makes a holy mess because, you know, you're using a razor planer and then you carve it with coarse grit and then fine grit and then a finish. It makes a holy mess too, but you're taking a long time to get that shape, and it's a lot more intimidating to get it wrong. With foam, just go for it. Seriously, just go for it. And have fun and check things as you go. Take a step back and look at something from a different perspective. Look at it in a different lighting situation. Take it outside in the sunlight and you'll see shadows that you didn't see before. So that's the best advice that I can give you guys in terms of this foam sculpting stuff. I've done it a million times in the past. I'm getting back to these foam roots. It's been a long time since I've done this, but it's like getting on a bicycle, man. I'm telling you, real easy. So with that, I'm going to stop yammering on and just get this done. All right, guys, it is the next day, and I put the wings together just to get a feel for things. Yeah, it's large. It's large. So as the wing sits right now, without any servos in it or any of the hardware like hinges, it still needs a leading edge. Needs glass work, needs paint. We're at 1 pound and almost 7 ounces. So not even 1.5 pounds. So I've still got plenty of weight savings here. It's like it's going to end up being about 2 pounds for the whole wing, which is nice. Really nice. Really excited about that. So also in some of the time lapse, you noticed I was struggling a little bit with my Gorilla Glue. Well, it's really humid here. I keep telling people this and they don't believe me. Well, the Gorilla Glue was setting inside the bottle from sucking in air because it was close to the bottom of the bottle. So there were chunks of Gorilla Glue that were cured inside the bottle, plugging up the hole. Picked up some fresh Gorilla Glue. All right. So with that, I want to show you guys one more trick. Okay, so the audio is going to suck for this, but for all intents and purposes, for those that doubted about my methodology of strength of the wing, there you go. So as you can see, the wing is quite strong and it's really lightweight. Before I put the servos in, it's about 2.5 pounds, and I have glued on the leading edge. Haven't carved it out yet, but still all of the same basic stuff. And then I still have yet to fill in those spots. These where the wood are, those recesses will remain because that's where the struts are going to live for the cabane struts. Okay, so we're moving right along. We're making great progress. Now, couple of things I want to clarify. A couple of times you saw in the time lapse where I was, I was using a finishing nail. There we go. There's my finishing nail. I was using this to poke little holes in the foam. And the reason that I do that is because that adds more mechanical strength. As the glue expands, it expands into those tiny holes and it makes a more mechanical bond. There's more surface area for the glue to bond to, so it makes it a little bit stronger. So there's that. And I mean, really, if you guys have any other questions about stuff that I'm doing, I tend to leave stuff out because I'm familiar with these things. A lot of this stuff is old hat for me. It's been a while since I've done a foamy build. So if you got a question, leave it below. Give a like if you like what you're seeing here. And certainly if you want to pick up some merch and help support my builds, you can do that in the link in the description as well. And you know, if you want to keep tabs on the progress a little bit, you can also check out my Instagram profile. You don't have to, but I do like posting there, and I love giving you guys little teasers of things to come. We have a little fun, be a little silly. It's a good time. So until next time, guys, continue to build, continue to enjoy building your foamy flying works of art. I know my table's a hot mess. So pretty.